Hey, hello, ladies. Hope I'm showing up in the right place. I'm so excited. This is my first live in this group. So please, if you happen to find this video in this massive group, please say hello and let me know where rather you're tuning in from. So you're going to be so glad you joined me. I've got a really juicy topic for us to talk about today. It's my favorite four-letter word, and that would be fear. I love this topic because it was such a sticking point for me for so long. And I didn't even know for most of my life that it was something I needed to work on. I didn't think of myself as someone who lacked courage. So good stuff. I've got some great strategies to share with you to recognize and move through fear, because it doesn't have to keep you stuck. But this is actually, I digress. Let me, since I'm new here especially, and you probably don't know me, please allow me to introduce myself. My name's CJ Rivard. I am a business coach and energy alignment specialist, and I pull from almost 30 years of business building and executive leadership experience, and I bring in strategies and practical tools that I combine with what I call the secret sauce, which is energy alignment and manifestation techniques. So I love it because it helps me help clients rapidly shift through energetic blocks and limiting beliefs and get back on track and into momentum. It's great stuff. So back to fear. I'm so passionate about this topic because it did really keep me stuck for a long time, but I also think we don't talk about it enough in the right ways. So I did a survey in my Facebook group, and women told me this was the number one obstacle that the majority said came up for them as far as moving forward. So it's very common, and if it's coming up for you now in some way or has ever in the past, please don't feel badly about that. And don't beat yourself up if you're struggling a little bit to move past it, because in my opinion, we live in a society right now that really sells us a lot of broken strategies. There's a lot of hype and garbage out there, honestly, and other words that I'm not going to use right now. There's a lot of stuff out there that tells us you need to feel the fear and do it anyway. You need to just be motivated, dig in, be brave, atta girl, just go do it, you get the point. And the problem with that is, not that that's a bad thing to do if you can do it. If you're doing something that's new and a little exciting and you get a little, anxiousness in your stomach or chest and it feels a little like excitement and you can step forward and do it. Because more than likely, if that's the case, it's something that maybe you haven't done, but it's in your skill set and your realm of possibilities already. But and I think this comes up a lot for new business owners and entrepreneurs, if it's something completely new and you've got a big dream and you're trying to get over this idea of what will people think or what if I fail and all the things. I mean, entrepreneurship, let me know if this has ever been you. I don't know if you're new on your journey or if you've been on it a while, let me know that too. But this has been the biggest personal development journey that I could have ever gone on, because it has brought stuff up for me I didn't know was there. Let me know if you can relate to that, because it's crazy. Anyway, so we don't talk about fear in the sense that it can be paralyzing. We don't talk about that because people feel, and I know this was me, this came up for me. I felt like I was less than. What's wrong with me when all these people out there are feeling the fear and doing it anyway? I should be able to too. I should be capable of doing that. And the thing is, of course, we're all different. Every situation's different. Our backgrounds are different. And there's nothing wrong with you if you're contemplating something right now that's paralyzing you in fear. And I'm not saying you are, but I was for a while, actually for a long while. So not only did stepping into entrepreneurship take a lot of talking myself into it, that wasn't paralyzing, that just took a little like baby stepping for a really long time to come around, because it was a new identity. When something's new and outside our existing realm of reality, it can be a big thing to get used to and work through. But that wasn't the big thing for me. For me, thus far, and here's the trick too, and you may have already realized this, the trick is it'll get easier to overcome those challenges, but they're never going to stop. If you keep growing and growing your business and challenging yourself, which I hope you are, we're going to keep bumping up against that ceiling, right? We have set points in every area of our life. We have, this is the way it's been, and if we want something different, whether it's more money or just stepping out and, getting yourself on video, we have set points and our comfort areas, and every time we come up against one of those, there's going to be fear. If we do it frequently, there'll be less fear because we're used to stepping out of our comfort zone, and it'll get easier to stretch ourselves, but there's still going to be fear. I don't think I realized that. I thought that when I finally got over this camera thing, this camera and I, boy, we go way back. We had quite the relationship. When I finally got over that, I thought, woo, I made it. Look at that. I'm done. I got over the hump. I'm good. And you know that I wasn't. There was something else right around the corner. There was something else, because if we're growing, we're going to be challenging ourselves. So for me, I let this fear of the camera hold me back for way too long. I would just stare at it. It wasn't even lives. Back in the day when nobody was going live, I didn't even want to hit record and talk to the camera. It was kind of weird. I'll talk to a group, like of real people, but I wouldn't talk to a camera. It freaked me out, even though I knew I could delete the recording afterwards. So that was just me. Love to hear what your biggest fear has been that maybe you've overcome, and maybe somebody else reading this will feel a little encouragement to overcome it as well. So I also wanted to mention that sometimes fear doesn't feel like fear. Sometimes it just looks like procrastination. So look out for that, because we run into resistance and we don't always know why. We're kind of self-sabotaging, if you will, and we don't know why. And frequently it is an underlying fear, because we're stepping outside of our comfort zone. And even if you don't think of it as making you uncomfortable, if it's something new, your brain could very well be throwing up resistance. I talk about getting through fear a lot because this is a key area. One of the elements in my Aligned Success Blueprint, there's 5 elements, and one of them that's so important is being able to step into and embrace your personal power. Personal power, isn't that a great phrase? I love it. And if we don't believe in ourselves and we're not confident to step forward and share our voice, our message, our gifts and talents, we can't shine our light, and we don't own our personal power. There's other things to do with personal power, but fear really holds a lot of women back. And, you know, again, some may see it in other ways. You could put a lens on it like, well, I just don't like to rock the boat. You know, I just want to make everyone happy. But if you're dimming your light, and not shining it, that's a problem. And there's more than likely some fear under there. It could be fear of rejection because, you know, you want to make your group happy. So let's see what I want to bring up next. So just really quickly, I wanted to touch on comfort zone because I talk about that a lot, and you may have heard it a lot, but I want to talk about why this is a thing. And it's so normal for your brain to throw this fear at you. So the oldest part of our brain, it's been around forever, is programmed for survival. And this is the area that throws us into fight, flight, or freeze, which you've probably heard of when something new or different comes up. Now, the thing is, your brain doesn't know, that little part of your brain doesn't know whether it's good for you or not, doesn't know that you really want to do it or not. All it knows is it's different. So it senses different as a possible threat. So your beautiful brain is doing its job when it is, you know, putting up the resistance and holding you back a little bit. So thank it for doing its job so well, because you're contemplating something different and it's thinking, danger, 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 danger. So it's doing its job. But I do have 8 strategies that you can try. You do not need all 8, don't worry. You may need 1 or 2. Try a couple until you find what resonates with you. I like to share more than just what worked really well for me, because we're all different, right? And at different times, you may need something different, a different strategy to help you through, depending on how big the fear is and, you know, how motivated you are to work through it. And I wanted to share this great quote from my mentor, John Maxwell. The greatest mistake we make is living in constant fear that we will make one. And that brings up the whole idea of perfectionism, doesn't it? Certain personality styles, so look out if this is you, if you really value accuracy and, you know, attention to detail or perfection, be careful, because unless you're a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist, you know, there's not a lot of things out there where you have to be 100% perfect all the time before you do the thing. And so perfectionism can be a delay strategy because you're scared of not being perfect or not being 100% right. Again, it's different personalities that see this differently, but if this is you, if you really get stressed about hitting publish on that web page because there might be a typo, let it go, because the majority of us, first of all, people scan, so they won't see the typo probably, but secondly, we all make mistakes. We all need to double, triple, quadruple proofread our websites at some point, or some kind stranger will point it out to us and then we can fix it. It's no problem. Nobody's going to die because there's a typo on your website. And I'll tie back to that in a minute. So I have 8 strategies, and I also included in the text over this video, my little lead-in, there's a link if you would like to download the checklist just to go back and reference at some point. It won't make sense unless you've watched the this video, the training, but it could be a great reference to remind you of what you might want to try. If you're struggling a little bit with this, and again, don't beat yourself up, because it's common, more common than a lot of us realize, because people aren't talking about when they can't work through the fear. I'm trying to think. I don't think I spoke to very many people about it. I mentioned it to a few, but when you're paralyzed in fear, it's not, you know, you're not proud of it. And so we frequently don't talk about it, and that doesn't help other women trying to work through the same fear. So you're in good company if you're challenged right now with anything. So the first strategy, and I recommend, you know, this may not be coming up for you, but check in, practicing emotional awareness and understanding what you're feeling. So a lot of women, or people in general, if they're feeling, you know, instead of understanding or recognizing and admitting they're feeling fear, they could just go, you know, kind of shut down and say, oh, I'm just really tired, I can't do that right now. Or, oh, I'm just overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. I just can't make up my mind. And, you know, they're doing this spinning thing, avoiding the thing, without recognizing that there's actually an underlying fear. They don't want to do the thing, but they don't recognize that it's fear keeping them. You know, they're putting the blame on something else, even though they're not moving forward. So recognize if there's fear there is the first step, because then you can dig further into what's caused it and take steps to move through it. So the next thing I recommend is putting it into context, because our brains were built to keep us safe in this area. So if you're feeling fear, is there something to be feared? You know, is your little spidey sense going off, and there's actually, you know, you're in a creepy corner and you're sensing something wrong and you need to listen and get the heck out of there. You know, there's times when that feeling is not to be ignored. Most of the time, you can ignore it, though. You know, most of the time, it's a social fear. So just to be clear on that, if it's not a physical danger or potential physical danger, then we move on to the next point of identifying what the belief is under that fear. What is causing you to hesitate or feel the fear? So there's always a thought behind emotions, right? The thought causes the emotion. So, and emotions are subconscious, and we just feel them because of the thought. So if you can shift your thought, well, first recognize what the thought is. You have a choice of shifting it. And I'm getting ahead of myself here, because the first thing I want you to recognize is what the belief is, and if it's a realistic thought, you know, the thing that you're afraid of. So our brains, when we're in fear, we're thinking about a future outcome that hasn't happened yet. So is it, like, what's the worst possible scenario, and is it a possibility? And is it a probability? You know, and how awful is it that you would be in this tailspin and pause over being in fear? So sometimes, and this did not work for me with the whole camera situation, but sometimes we can take ourselves out of fear, out of that emotion, by going to think logically about what's caused it and realizing it's not rational, and then we can move on. So you might try that. That's the easiest way to get around it. And then I recommend that you look at your choices. So if you feel fear, there's a biological feeling that's going on. And sometimes excitement and fear or anxiety can get mixed because they feel similar. So think about that. But if you're feeling that biological feeling, there are things you can do to calm yourself. You know, a little deep breathing or EFT. I love EFT, which is tapping, because that'll bring your cortisol levels right down, calm you right down if you've got a few minutes to do that. You can try breathing. One of my best hacks, and this is so simple and everyone can do it, is just to take a couple minutes instead of thinking about that thing. Bring your attention back to gratitude. Think about something and really feel into something that you're really, really grateful for. And not only does that make you feel great, because gratitude is a high vibe emotion that we love to feel, not only does it do that, but all of a sudden it brings you back to the present. So you're not thinking about that thing in the future that you're dreading, you're back in the present. So it's a great hack. You know, your monkey mind might wander back over there to the fear again, but it'll get you out of the spiral if there's something that's really making your heart race and you know, fear or anxiety to come up. Gratitude is a wonderful thing. The other thing that you can do is shift your attention elsewhere, especially if it's not something right in front of you that you have to deal with. Think about something else, just completely different. Think about rainbows and unicorns. Or anything else you'd like to think of other than that thing that is causing you fear. And then the other thing that would help, if you can think through this, a lot of times there's a fear of controlling the outcome or an unknown outcome that gets us really worked up. So if you can let go of the idea of control, if you can, recognizing that the only thing we can control is ourselves, there's a certain level of peace that comes with that. And then trusting yourself that you're going to do the best you possibly can in any given situation. So I talk a lot about self-esteem, which I think a lot of us don't recognize that we need more of, and we actually do, because if you have high self-esteem and self-love, you're so much more confident to step forward into new situations and know that you can survive. Even if you trip up a little bit or you don't get it right the first time, you are more able to step forward. Hey, Adrienne, thank you for showing up, love. Nice to see you there. You're able to step forward more confidently if you have really high self-esteem. And I don't know about you. Let me know if this sounds familiar. I grew up being told not to think too highly of myself. So this was a weird, really weird area for me to work on, because I had a lot of resistance, because heaven forbid I think too highly for myself. And I'll tell you, not a secret, but you know what people don't really think about, most people do not actually think as highly of themselves as they should. Even the ones who look like they're really all full of it, a lot of times they're putting on airs because inside they're really scared and not confident. So again, not to put up any red flags that this might be an area you need to work on, but think about it just openly. I think that in order for us to grow and evolve, we have to be mature enough to look at ourselves critically, but not critically. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to really honestly reflect so you know what to work on without beating yourself up, because we all have a lot that we could work on if we were honest about it. So self-esteem is one of those areas that is hugely helpful if you struggle with fear and stepping forward. The next thing, I love this tip. It works so well, but it doesn't apply to every situation. If you have a big fear, see if you can chunk it down into much, much smaller things. So instead of, going out there and jumping on a TEDx stage when you've never spoken in front of a group before, you can start out with smaller, less intimidating actions. And I think in that scenario that goes without saying. But anything. When I was trying to convince myself to talk to a camera, when I finally did, and it was a long time, you guys, I didn't go live. I just hit a button and got used to talking to the camera, and then I deleted it. You take baby steps, whatever it is, if you can. If you're scared of the water, don't go and try and jump off the high dive into the deep water unless you're someone that likes that kind of therapy. You'd rather rip the Band-Aid off and just get it over with than do it. You do you. But, if that's not you, you can ease into it. You don't have to go off the high dive first. Most situations, there are baby steps you can take first. Okay, so look for them and let me know how you do, because it's so helpful to break it down, and then you acclimate gradually to that thing you're afraid of. So instead of a massive fear, it's just a little anxiety, and you can more easily step through it, and then again, and then again. And so that comfort zone, instead of being a brick wall, I like to think of it as being made of something malleable like Play-Doh. So if you push on it, it'll move back, and it doesn't bounce back. You just keep pushing on it, and it goes back further and further and further, instead of having to hire a bulldozer and push it all the way back at once. Although if you've got a bulldozer, that could work. So I know I've got to watch the time here. I've got 3 of my favorite top hacks I wanted to share with you super quickly, because this is what worked for me. Learn to tap into your higher consciousness and really trust your intuition. And I know that's way easier for me to sit here and say than to do sometimes if you're not used to it, because I wasn't. I was an overthinker, and I always argued with myself on what I should be doing. But when you really get to the point where you can trust your intuition, it makes it so much easier to step forward out of your comfort zone, because you're on the right path, and you're meant to take that path. Even if it doesn't work the first time, you're going to learn, and you're going to keep going and maybe pivot a little along the way. It's so much more comfortable to step forward when you're doing the aligned action that you need to be doing. So try that if you haven't. It helps a lot. The other thing I do, I teach a manifesting framework, and part of that, which is pretty common, I think, is visualizing and then really feeling into doing that thing that you're afraid of doing, and feeling the success and feeling the pride, and really focusing on that. And I encourage you, if you've tried that and you don't think it works, maybe you didn't try it long enough. You don't need a lot of time, but it could take doing it multiple days on a regular basis to make you picture and see yourself doing it and more comfortable with stepping forward. And the last thing I wanted to share, and this is the wing dinger. This is it. Ask yourself, if the worst case scenario were to happen, that thing I'm afraid of, if that were to happen, worst case scenario, would I be better off than if I never tried? That's a doozy, isn't it? That was what got my rear end gear, let me tell you, because regrets don't go away, I'm afraid. They just don't. And, if that's ever been you not doing something and you can't go back and correct it, forgive yourself, because we all do the best we can at the time. But you have new choices you can make now, and you can decide you are very capable of doing that thing, and you don't want to live with regret. So if that's you, go ahead and do it. That's my sage advice. So thank you for tuning in. Real quick, I want to remind you again that I have got a checklist as well as my free self-love, how to build your self-esteem and self-love ebook. So take advantage of that if you might find that helpful. And I want to invite you to reach out if you'd like some more support in this area, because my Embodied Confidence portal is coming up at the end of this month. Hey, Nancy, thank you for tuning in, love. I appreciate it. My Embodied Confidence portal is coming up at the end of the month, and it's an 8-week group program where we really immerse into this, and we use practical tools and strategies and energetics and the manifesting framework that always works. So reach out to me if you'd like more information on that. And I hope you make it a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll hopefully talk to you next week.